Hi, everyone. My name is Kai Armstrong, and I'm the product manager for the Code Review Group. I wanted to take a moment today to talk about what's coming up for the next year for the Code Review Group. So areas that we'll be looking at to build out new features or other areas that we're looking into to improve the product. So let me take a minute, share my screen, and we'll go through what that year looks like. As a reminder, this presentation and all the link pages contain information related to upcoming products, features, and functionality. It's important to note that the information presented is for informational purposes only. Please do not rely on this information for purchasing or planning purposes. As with all projects, the items mentioned in this presentation and link pages are subject to change or delay. The development, release, and timing of any products, features, or functionality remain at the sole discretion of GitLab. So I want to talk about this through the lens of a few themes. And the first theme that I want to talk about is improving the code review process. And that starts with what we call review rounds. And so review rounds is a concept that we use to describe all of the code review process. And so code review is really something that takes multiple cycles of feedback being given, iterations being made, and reviews happening again. And so understanding the state of a merge request, what things a user might need to act on, who's waiting on someone else to take an action. All of those things are part of what we consider the work around review rounds. And much of the work related to review rounds is exploratory in nature. So we release things as we refine them and we think they're ready. And then we continue to look at other parts of the flow and look for opportunities to improve those. So we'll talk about a few of those, but keep that in mind when we talk about review rounds, that it's a broad concept and not necessarily a specific thing. So some of the things that we're looking at are a concept that we call request changes on merge requests. This is going to actually be released as part of GitLab 16.9. This is one of the first things coming out of all the work that we've been doing here. And this allows a reviewer to signal that they're requesting changes when completing their review. Other things we're looking at are improvements to the navigation around the counter on merge requests. So which ones you have reviews, which ones you've done reviews on, which ones you're an author on, those kinds of things. And then a better dashboarding view to understand sort of the state of all of those merge requests. And then another area that I want to highlight is sort of reviewer assignments. So reviewers are an important concept. They convey who's responsible for reviewing those changes and getting it through. But another piece of that is who's approving those changes in accordance with approval rules that a project might have configured or code owner rules that might have configured. And currently those are a little bit disconnected. And so we're looking at ways to sort of streamline that process across both of those. So here's some of the screenshots and mockups and things that we've been testing or working on for these. And so you can see this is for request changes. It shows sort of the different states that the sidebar can be on based on all of the different actions that you can take. And then when you finish your review, sort of this new dialogue that tells you, becomes more explicit about whether you're just commenting, whether you're approving those changes, or whether you're actually requesting changes that you want to be addressed before the merge happens. Here's a concept we're playing with for the dashboard that sort of buckets these reviews in a few different places about ones that you're the author, ones that you're the reviewer, if they've been submitted in the various state. This is still a large work in progress, but just shows you sort of the area and the thing we're thinking about here. And then the last one is sort of reviewer assignment. This is another concept that we're working with that shows you sort of when you go to assign reviewers, we're now being more explicit about these reviewers and sort of what role they might be fulfilling, if it's related to a code owner's approval rule or maybe this other role. And that way, when you go to save that, you sort of explicitly put these people into that, and it's much clearer for them what they need to take a look at. So that's some of the work we're doing on review rounds. I want to talk about the next big change that we've got in sort of the merge request process, which is this concept we call automatically merge when ready. And so here's a screenshot of sort of some of the changes that we've been making to the widget for this. But what we're doing here is we're changing the behavior of the merge request so that currently you can only set a merge request to auto merge or merge when the pipeline's complete or when these policies have finished or added to the merge train after all of these various checks have happened. And in the merge request, there's lots of checks. There might be things like approvals that need to be given. There might be license checks. There might be threads that have to be resolved, all those kinds of things. And we've historically not been able to set the merge button until all those checks are satisfied. And this creates a situation where you might be waiting on one person to finish one action and then need to go find someone else who can actually press the merge button or do something else. And so we want to sort of change the paradigm of that behavior where, you set up your merge request, you'll go ahead and set it to auto merge. And then as all those checks are satisfied, your merge request will merge and, whatever the appropriate strategy is, if that's when the pipeline completes, if it needs to go into a merge train, sort of all of those different things that might happen, but without needing to come back and perform that action. So this will improve your cycle time because you'll get those merges in just a little bit faster without needing to find that extra person to take the action. And then the last one I think that I want to talk about here is something that's suppressing generated files. And so in a merge request, sometimes there are files that are generated through automation, or maybe they're files that you don't need to review because they contain sort of test data or something else. And so there's two maybe classifications of this. One is automatically generated content. And so we want to suppress those things in a diff. This says a couple of things. One, it helps the reviewers focus on the changes and what they actually need to review and not things that are changed or controlled by systems. And the other is that helps improve the performance of the merge request because there's less data that needs to be loaded, less other things on the page, and all of that's a benefit there. This functionality also extends to users to allow them to configure a set of things that can be suppressed by default, and so that we don't need to load those. So if a project has decided you don't need to review these files or this type of files or these other things, you can configure that via Git attributes, and then we'll automatically suppress it in the diff. The view of this is similar to these screenshots. It'll show, this one is, these files weren't suppressed, and then these were obviously configured by Git attributes or something to be suppressed. We'll have a button in these that also lets you load it anyway, so you can go and make the request if you want to see those changes, but by default, we won't be loading those things. The next theme I want to talk about is elevating security visibility in merge requests. And so as we know, security is a huge component of GitLab and all of the advanced features that you can add in. So we're looking at ways to really make sure those things are more clear inside of the merge request and more easily addressed. Both of these screenshots that you're seeing right now are mock-ups of things that we're playing with. Again, none of these are final. None of these are likely to be sort of what we'll do, but they give you an idea of how we're thinking about this. And so if you look at the screenshot here, what you can see is sort of an extension of that merge blocked attribute that we talked about with the automatically merge, where you can sort of see all of those checks that need to be resolved. Here's more all of these security things that might need to be resolved, or policy things that might need to be resolved prior to merging. So we want to make sure that there's a clear way to see those as part of that whole widget and make sure that you can act on those and what you need to act on versus if you maybe take a look at these widgets, there might be more things in here that are important for you to know, but not necessarily that you need to take an action on. And so we just want to try and highlight that kind of information more. And the same goes in the Diffs view. And when you're looking at sort of the scan results and where those have come, we want to make sure that you see those kinds of findings where you're reviewing the code so that you can understand those as a reviewer and an author, the actions that you need to take. So we're looking at different ways to put them in there, different ways to highlight those tests as part of, a similar part of maybe the file tree, other things like that. But it's really about how do we bring more of the security features in line with the regular flow of reviewing a merge request and approving a merge request, and make sure that the things are actioned in a timely manner and that you can do that all within the merge request. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is called AI and merge requests. And so this is really about, how do we continue to bring more AI features to the merge request to improve that experience of making you more efficient or automating tasks that maybe can be automated or other things like that. And so we've been working on, merge request summaries for quite a while now, and where we wanted to place those in the UI, what we wanted to summarize, how much information we wanted to give. And so currently that happens in the merge request on the description page. And we're going to change that a little bit here. And we're going to add a button to when you either create or edit a merge request that allows you to generate a summary. And this really is to give users more control. So when you generate that summary, you can use it as part of the description that you're already filling out. You can edit it, you can tweak it, but it gives you a good place to start to help you, fill in what's happening in this merge request, and then make edits if there's things that need to be changed, or you'd want to highlight something more, take away from something else. And so, this will continue to be something that we focus on in terms of just these summaries to help you generate meaningful descriptions to help describe your changes to yourself and to people who might be reviewing it. And then the other places we're looking at for AI are summarizing merge request reviews. So if you go through as a reviewer and you maybe leave 10 or 15 comments and you want to give a succinct way to tell the author, here's sort of my general feedback about this, but you can see all the details in these other comments, things like that. We've got a feature for automated merge and squash commit messages. And so how can we use that to improve the commit messages that get made when you perform those actions, and so that you have meaningful commit messages inside of your repository that describe the changes for users as they go to look at it, maybe outside of the merge request. And then the last area that we're looking at, but we haven't started yet, is this automated code review of merge requests. So how can we do that first level of review of a merge request? How can we either help you as an author self-review and go through and sort of see the things that you might want to correct or fix before you pass it to someone to review? And how can we help reviewers find those little things that maybe they're not catching because they're just not seeing it, or that we can use, train models to look at and do? And so that's probably the next area that we'll look at there. But AI will continue to be a big focus of the merge requests and opportunities that we have there. Another thing that we're talking about in the merge request is introducing support for sort of additional workflows outside of the traditional like one feature branch to to your main default target branch. And so an area that we're currently exploring is stack diffs. And so we'll talk a little bit about stack diff workflows. So this image is from the Pragmatic Engineer. There's a newsletter. I'll make sure it's linked below, but it sort of shows you the difference in a merge request based flow where you create a branch, you code, it reviews, it goes in, and then you wait for that to merge before you create another branch. And a flow where maybe you have one branch and you keep making sort of commits on top of that and passing those commits for review. So a little bit of a different style here. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to build on top of the GitLab CLI initially, and then bring into the GitLab UI. How do we make these workflows more efficient and more possible inside of GitLab? And so this is an area that we've started exploration on and we'll continue to work on over the next few quarters to really see if we can refine this workflow and make it usable within GitLab for those users who are interested in it without disrupting sort of the natural flow that people have inside of the merge request. So if you're interested in stack diffs, let us know, but this is something we're looking at. And then the last theme I think we've got here is platform efforts. And so these are things that you may not see as features and functionalities, but are things that are important to code review as a team as we look over the next year, things that we need to do to enable certain scaling things for GitLab or new features and functionality that other groups are doing. And so these are platform efforts. One of these is new Diffs architecture. And so we're working on a ground up rethink of sort of diffs and how we generate them and their features and functionality based on sort of where the GitLab technology stack has moved over the last 10 years. And so we're looking at new ways to render diffs and what that new functionality gets us. And some of this will be user facing, right? It'll make it feel faster and more performant and allow us to potentially increase things like diff limits, where we have limits on how much will show on a page or other things like that. It also will allow us to easily build out new functionality for diffs in multiple places in GitLab, because we'll sort of standardize this across the board. And so this is a large initiative that we're undertaking to sort of improve this performance, improve the perceived performance for users, and hopefully open up new opportunities in the future around the diffs. The next one is GitLab has quite a few database tables. The code review group has a few large ones related to merge requests, specifically to diffs and commits and other things like that, where we're storing a lot of information to be able to recall or show various things. And so GitLab uses a strategy of partitioning this. We're going to work on partitioning some of these tables to help reduce the size and make them more scalable across GitLab. GitLab instances our own GitLab.com SaaS instance, and then other large customer instances. And then the last one is code review supporting the cells effort. So cells is an effort inside of GitLab to sort of re-architect how organizations and customers are divided. And so code review will just be making sure that all of the things that we have for the merge requests can support this effort as we go forward. And so that'll be another large focus over the next few months to the year, while we just make sure that we're able to support those things. So thank you for taking a look at this. This is what the next year for GitLab code review looks like. If you've got any questions or comments, you can leave them below, or you can reach out to me. You can find my profile. I'll make sure everything's down below the video, but thanks for watching.